What should my budget be as I consider starting out a cold email campaign? I want to kick this off. Your budget should be $356. Next question.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
Hey, and this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
Today,
we got to tear down.
Rapid fire.
Oh.
Hey, that's not a tear down.
That's all right.
We are not on the same page today. We are going to do two different casts.
Sorry, you caught me multitasking. I'm trying to arrange the spreadsheet in front of me with all the questions. And why don't we just dive right in now that we are on the same page?
Yeah, let's do it. Question 1.
Numero uno. What's one thing I need to do differently in 2020, Jeremy?
I will reply with just one word: personalization.
Personalization. Nice. Okay, I've got care about engagement and really personalization, engagement. Are they one and the same?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way,
not quite. There's a sort of causality here.
Okay. So for the most part, though, personalization is going to help with getting healthy engagement, like a nice reply rate, a lot of opens, that kind of thing.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Shameless plug. If you hate doing personalization, but know you probably should, I can help you with it. Just go to emailsthatsell.com/contact and drop me a message. I'll tell you about it. Personalization service. Let's move on. Number 2.
We forgot the small jingle. Ding, ding, ding. Jack's offer.
Yeah. Jingle done. Continuing with the rapid fire.
This episode is sponsored by Jack. This episode is sponsored by Jack Reamer.
This is, episode 130 something. I get a couple plugs, every couple dozen.
It's all good,
cool.
Man.
Okay, cool. So number 2, am I crazy for sending cold emails from my actual work inbox?
I love this question, actually. What do you got, Jack?
Well, question for you. Are you doing an amazing job with outreach? If you are, and you have a nice engagement rate and people are replying and not marking you as spam, no, you're not crazy. But if you're doing anything less than a great job at outbound, yes, you're a lunatic. Don't risk your domain.
I got a slightly different view on this one. I think that having a different domain is more like a seatbelt. Like Jack mentioned, if the road is clear and there is no one on the road, you're kind of fine, but beware if there is a typhoon coming up your way, you may want to effectively have a different car or, something different or different road that you can go to. But most of the time, people are overstressing that. And for a very long time, I've been always recommending get a new domain. But it turns out that if you already have a company that sends quite a large amount of volume and you're just trying to figure out cold email at a very small scale, I think you'll be fine. Just be mindful that you want the balance to be on the right way, which is your normal type of emails doing perfectly fine should really outweigh the number of cold email you're sending. If you're planning on switching the ratio, go and get your different domain because it's going to rock.
That's actually really good advice. So basically, if you're sending more normal email than outbound email, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
If you want to cross the threshold and send more outbound, go ahead and get yourself a new domain. I like that.
Cool.
Okay. So next question, where should I spend the most of my time in my outbound campaigns?
I think that's one for you, Jack.
All right. I may surprise you if you're a longtime listener, maybe not, but I'm going to say spend most of your time list building. Because if you get...
Shocker.
Yeah, it's true. But if you get list building nailed down, everything else becomes easier, huh?
That's right.
It's something that it can always be improved, and it just makes getting that reply. I'm telling you, the campaigns I see work really well. It's the people that have obsessed about narrowing down their segments. Even if you have a huge market, just spend time picking the right segments to go to one by one, starting with low-hanging fruit. It's just a magic sort of hack, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll just add something that if you have your list already nailed down, I will say spend the most of your time actually reviewing on a weekly basis how your campaign is performing to figure out what you want to try next. So it's like more on the A/B test, like revisiting maybe one part of your campaign, but it always comes down to every week, spend the time to review your campaign. Are we still delivering? Do we need to change anything? And then spend that time here, basically.
Nicely said. So I love this question. what should my budget be as I consider starting out a cold email campaign? I want to kick this off. Your budget should be $356. Next question. No, it really is $356 because
that's send me the check and that'll be it.
No, it's going to get you 2 months of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Hunter.io access so that you could find emails, and the basic version of QuickMail. And I suggest 2 months because it's probably going to take you 2 months to really get somewhere with cold email if you're brand new to it. And that's the price, not including your time spent.
I absolutely love it. I will give a different spin on this one, actually. I would say for me, it's like same question asking me, if I start a new business, how much capital should I have? And it basically depends on what road do you actually want to take. Do you want to take the bootstrap, client-funded road and be profitable from day one? Or do you actually want to take the funded road and then just spend as much as you can? Because if you go the funded road, then I would say, get 3 people at each different position, like, research, SDR, closer, whatever, and then just iterate on that one and, spend as much money as you can to get the fastest way to the right answer.
Yeah.
If you go bootstrap, just do what Jack said. I think it's great.
Or there's another one, instead of hiring the SDR, the closer and such, just bring on an agency. It's a lot faster results. But I will tell you, if you're planning on hiring an agency, if you come to that first call with a campaign that's already been run, even if it failed, that agency can see what you've sent and to whom, to see what copy you put down. And it's just going to shorten their learning curve, trying to figure out how to position your offering and who to send it to. So even if you plan on going that route, hiring people, I still recommend, as the founder, go ahead and set up your own damn campaign, run it for a little while. It's relatively inexpensive and you're going to learn so much. You set it up and do it yourself because you learn.
Good stuff.
Okay, more questions. What's the secret to reaching out to influencers? And I'd love to hear what you have to say on this, Jeremy, because I know you've done it.
Okay, so bear in mind that my role is not to reach out to influencers every day, but I would say it's basically a game of figuring out what they want. Is it more money? Is it more exposure? Is it more followers? Do they just do that on the side and they just want to have a cool lifestyle experience? Can you hook them up with people they want to be hooked with? Do you know some friends who then know the influencers? There's a whole variety of way to reach out to influencers, and it depends on your industry and so on. It depends on a lot of factors, but if you put generally yourself into their shoes and you adapt your pitch to it and not necessarily focusing on your product, I think you have a better chance of effectively reaching out to influencers.
Okay. And I'm going to tack on, because I think what you said was on the money, but I will put persistence up there in terms of getting a reply from an influencer. You kind of got to be in it for the long haul. So that means not just replying to that cold email or following up, but instead try different channels, because influencers may gravitate to Twitter or Instagram or their personal blog. You might be able to reach some people by commenting on an article they recently wrote better than you could with cold email, just as an aside. And
fair point.
The last thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around these days is doing influencer outreach as a way to build a relationship. So not seeing it as just, oh, it'd be cool if I got a mention from this person and then move on. But instead, how can you sort of build an ongoing relationship with this influencer is, I think, where the money's at.
Yeah, and by influencer, it depends also if this is an influencer that lives from influencing, like, those Instagram sort of like rock star, they will take one picture for 250K and stuff like that.
Right.
Or if we're talking about influencer in their industry, like, someone who is well known and can effectively influence one way or another, maybe through speaking events or some different things. So, not that clear here, but I think both tactics actually works pretty well for both scenarios.
Well said. Okay, next one. How do I know that my SDR is doing a good job or not with cold email?
Oh, that's a tough one. I like it.
I don't think it's that tough, actually.
Well, okay, let's hear your one first, and then either shut up or and agree or come back with something.
All right, so it comes down to something I learned from you, Jeremy, and this is identifying a key metric that you can track performance, right? So I'm thinking an SDR's key metric might be calls booked, sales calls, demos, something booked on the calendar. And here's where numbers start to come to fruition once you have this key metric. You know the value per call. So you might say, Well, how do you know the value per call? Oh, well, it turns out that for every 10 calls we give, we're going to sell $20,000 worth of product. And therefore, each call is worth X number of dollars. Okay, good. And now you can start comparing that to the salary of your SDR and using that as a benchmark. I mean, obviously, you want to be profitable. That number should be positive. But if you've got an SDR team, you can use this number, let's say calls booked divided by the cost of their salary, to figure out who's killing it more and who maybe needs some coaching or some help.
Man, that's a killer. I love the divided stuff that you mentioned. Yeah, for me, I would say it's really hard when you get only one, because it could be that this person is actually doing a good job, but there are other things like the product itself is not an easy product to sell by cold email or different channels. So you're going to want to also look at the ROI at the end. Does it actually make sense? Can you effectively book enough meetings so that the cost of your SDR is
at least covered, right?
Is covered. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the easy things to do if you can is to simply have multiple people. So have at least 2 people doing this job. So that way you could see what works, you could see what doesn't work, and then hopefully, just use the good strategy or technique that they're using in order to boost the overall efficiency. And if some can't adapt, obviously that's basically your SDR is not doing a good enough job of, coachability and then getting new thing on board and moving on.
Right.
It's super interesting what you were saying about like getting one metric, because I did write down positive reply rate. Make sure that this is actually on the positive side of things. Like they're getting more positive reply than actually getting negative replies is also a good indicator.
Interesting. So that just tells us that their messaging and their, let's say, prospecting, their list is more likely to be spot on.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So would you recommend looking at several metrics then?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that for a lot of things. You try a few metrics and see which one works for you. But if you don't have any data, that's going to be very hard to figure out, book how much, each call is. It's going to be very hard to figure out the actual number, the actual value of each call, because if you just starting out, I think use positive, reply rate. I think that would be a good starter indicator.
Good call. And also, if you're just starting out, does it make sense to hire an SDR straight out of the gate? I'm not quite sure, actually. I'd probably, right. I mean, I'm biased for agency stuff, but I like that until you've got a process in place, the value of a meeting, value of a customer, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But I will say one last point. There's a book, great read. It's Built to Sell. John Warwithal, I think is his name. He recommends hiring 2 salespeople at a time, mostly because you're not going to find the rock star your first go round usually. And also you can have some benchmarks to compare against. So that'll help you answer the question.
Yeah.
Which SDR is doing a good job, at least by comparison. So, okay, I think we have destroyed that question in its entirety. Let's keep chugging along here. When is email automation not useful?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And Jeremy, you're the email automation guru. So when is it not useful?
Well, I would say if you're going after super large deals, very important VIP type of thing, like you have a very limited number of people you will reach out to, I think automation really makes sense when it helps you scale something that works. If you haven't figured out something that works, I think that's kind of silly to add automation to it. It's not always that by adding automation, you're going to find faster. So I would say those sort of cases would actually be good cases when I wouldn't use automation personally.
Yeah. I've had a client refer to these as get on a plane deals. They say, Jack, if we get someone to reply and take a meeting with us, we're not just going to do it over Zoom. We're going to buy a plane ticket and fly to the States, and we're going to sit down with them. And so they were, trying to figure out how to use automation to land these get on a plane deals. And I think we did talk about how the importance of personalization, how probably manual prospecting, manual outreach does make a whole lot of sense, especially in the beginning. In their case, that they said their market was about 500. So that's sort of the threshold. What would you say you could try maybe 100 prospects to nail down a system that works, and then you think it would make sense for the rest of the 400 once you have something kind of figured out? Potentially depends on your reply rate and effectively how much you're closing and how much return on investment you're getting. Exactly. Okay, so I've got a very different answer, although I dug your response there. Email automation to me
Thanks, man.
is not you.
Means a lot to me, Jack.
Yeah, of course, Jeremy. Email automation doesn't seem very useful to me when it comes to warming up an inbox.
Nice.
Especially if you're using Gmail, because we're thinking that TensorFlow, this new machine learning spam filter mastermind, is able to see, oh, this is being sent with an API, so we're not going to give it as much credit. So if you're warming up an inbox, I don't think you should use automation.
That's a very great point, actually. And I actually decided not to build a warm-up features using automation within QuickMail just because of that.
You could have.
I could have. I just didn't do it, and I still don't do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried that this actually doesn't help. It's just a gimmick. So.
Yeah, probably so. Although there's such a need for it, people can come up and say, hey, this automatic process does it for you. But be careful, guys. It may not be what's really moving the needle out there.
You know what? That's going to be like the like on Facebook, the click farm stuff. That's exactly the same thing. We're exactly, at this stage in the process of cool email maturity stuff.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly, Google just swipe out like 2 million, inboxes or some stuff like that, just like click farms on Facebook accounts.
It's happening. Good to keep in mind. Let's carry on because this is rapid fire. A couple more questions. Jeremy, how many go to hell replies should I get before I throw in the towel and stop cold emailing? Let me take this one.
Yeah.
You should get 3 go to hell replies before you stop cold emailing. If you're getting 3, that means you're doing something incorrectly and it's a good time to stop, put the brakes on, and revisit your campaign.
So interesting. For me, I would say that it's not just about the go to hell. You also have to consider the other side. Because if you're getting like 85% positive reply rate and you only get like 3 go to hell, it could be that, your list contains a few odd people or a few people that you caught at the wrong time. And at the end of the day, you should really look at, is my campaign working? Do I have like a positive return on investment of my campaign? And if so, the only thing you need to worry about is that will those 3 ones actually impact my deliverability by marking me as spam or not? If you're fine with that and you only got like 3 and the rest is like super positive, then I would say yes, okay. But you have to also ask yourself, like, why do they reply like with effectively go to hell stuff? It's not just like, hey, please take me off your list. It's really like strong. So
yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking is like, you've really got to rub someone the wrong way in order for them to reply go to hell. However, like you mentioned, A, you could have lots of positive replies that are, building your business. And B, you never know what the prospect is going through. They could have been fired 5 minutes before they got your email, So
let me give you an example of my go to hell. I did receive we could call it a go to hell campaigns. I was actually contacting doctors at some point. And instead of saying patients, I say clients. Gosh, I had a lot of shit for that.
Yeah, okay. So there
was a lot of go to hell, but it was very obvious why. So I changed my campaign, basically.
So I don't know if this happened to me personally or if I heard this from someone, but if you're reaching out to doctors, chiropractors are doctors too, and you don't call them Dr. Jones or whatever.
You drop those 8 years of learning.
Yeah, it just so happens they tend not to like that, and so I guess it's good to look at both your positive replies. But to me, it's a time for reflection if you're getting go to hell.
Got it.
And that could mean change the way you're addressing prospects or figure out how to add some more value to whoever opens that email. But okay, another question thoroughly teared through. So here's an interesting one. Does signing my emails with the job title SDR hurt my reply rates?
I would say I have no idea, actually. That's something I should check. And I'll have more data with QuickMail next because we got the signature now being externalized from the email. But I have no idea. What about, do you have an idea, Jack?
I have an idea. So I've run campaigns that were nearly going after the same list with nearly the same offer. The big difference was one was signed by a CEO and another was signed by SDR.
Sure, that works in this case. It does make an impact. I agree.
Okay. But no, it was a huge impact. And I think we've got our guards up because what's an SDR? It's just someone whose sole job is to get us on the phone. That is literally what they're doing. And I respect the SDR world, but I think prospects are more wary of hearing from these people. So, yeah.
But hang on a second here. I mean, for me, it wasn't would a CEO get more reply? Because everyone will reply more to an email coming from the CEO or from the founder than they would to any other title in the company. So to me, the question was more like SDR instead of, I don't know, sales representative.
Fair enough.
Or some other stuff, right? But CEO is obvious. Founder is obvious as well.
It's a question that could be answered with data, I suppose, but then again, maybe not, because the SDRs, the email copy could change and that would change everything.
Poor guys. So they have a tough life.
It's a tough question to answer, but I will say I actually recommend, even if your title is SDR, if you're doing outbound, why not change it to account manager or customer success just for the campaign?
There you go.
I have a feeling it will at least get you one more extra lead.
And let me tell you, it will actually impact you one way or another, positive or negative, because people do pay attention to the name. If you're using an Indian name, you're going to get less reply rate than if you're using Jessica or, an Americanized, female name. That's data right there.
Yeah.
So the chances are that if you're changing your title.
And racism, I guess.
Yeah, but you don't change people. Like my friend Amma was saying, your job is to sell stuff. So, find a way to do it, kind of.
Do what works.
Yeah, do what works, right? We're not here to educate people. If only we could send an email to erase all racism, that'd be awesome. That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So, either you go with the flow or...
No, unfortunately not. All right, so well said. We've got one more question, and it is, what's your favorite sales tip for LinkedIn?
We kind of rate questions as to, do we want to answer it yes or no kind of thing. And then Jack was like, nah, not really want. And I was like, actually, I do have one tip, so I want to share it, kind of thing. So do you mind if I go?
All right. Rock and roll.
All right. So this is not a tip on how to reach out to people. And it's more a tip once you connect to someone. As soon as someone connects with you, rather than just sending them a cold email, or actually it's not a cold, it's like warm or lukewarm kind of email, or sending them like a message, I would say use the LinkedIn app and then just spend the time to actually just record a voice message. That's not something that is super often done, and it's hard to automate so people feel it's more genuine, and you can say something quite nice. So, overall, I kind of like that tip.
So does the voice recording stand out because it's not being used very frequently, you think?
I think so. And it forces people to listen to it. They just can't just read it. They have to listen to it. So,
yeah, they have to click. And also, you can't really automate that, can you?
I'm sure you can, with deep voice or deep fakes kind of things.
Oh.
But, you could definitely, automate that. Like instead of saying, of course, you don't want something to sound like that. Hi, Jack. So we were, it's like that big difference in tone and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure you can do it. And if not, you can only send that to whoever Jack you're connecting to or John you're connecting to. I'm sure there's enough Jack and John to actually make it for 80% of your cold outreach. You could do like a Jack sequence or John sequence or whatever.
Probably. Yeah. That would take a long time, but you're right. There's also AI that will mimic your voice. It's called Lyrebird or something, Lyre bird. And it really you train it to pick up your voice and you can basically type out and it'll sound just like you. I started setting up an account with it because I thought it was kind of neat. And then I immediately Control Alt Delete, closed the browser because I was like, I do not want anybody to be able to impersonate my voice. Can you imagine, the danger with that? It's like
crazy. Somebody
uses my voice to call a family member. Hey, can you send me some money to this new account I just opened up?
I mean, you're half joking, but okay, we're digressing here. This is rapid fire, but I take the luxury of speaking because this is our last question anyway. So if you don't want to hear from me, I think that's it. You heard the rapid fire. You're all good. You can leave.
Oh, but I haven't shared yet.
Yeah, that's true.
If you leave now,
that's true.
You'll miss out.
So I'll say one more thing and then I'll let you share. What you're saying is the fraud to the CEO. They basically make their own research in the hierarchy as to who is contacting who kind of thing. So they do an org chart. Then what they do is they find an imitator, someone who can actually imitate the voice of the CEO, which they heard, in speaking events and stuff like that. They look at when that person is actually going off the in travel for a meeting or whatever. And then they contact the executive secretary and they say, look, I don't know, look, Jane or Jack or whoever is the executive secretary. And they say, we need you to wire on this account, 20K or 200K right now because we need to close the deal. And so if you could do that, that'd be awesome, and so on. And then usually the executive assistant have the ability to do that. It comes by voice, so it's a big fraud, and that's been done. So
Terrifying.
That's probably because people actually signed up for that bird thing you were saying about.
No, that's pretty terrifying. Okay, well, you've covered that. Now I'm gonna lose sleep for 3 days in a row. Okay, so my favorite sales tip for LinkedIn, I call it the Koala strategy here.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so it's a stupid name, but it sort of works here. So my favorite tip for LinkedIn is you kind of go onto your inbound lead CRM. And for everybody that joins in, if you look them up on LinkedIn and send them a connection request, you're basically done. And then as you start sending, in my case, it's drip mail. If they start engaging with my content a lot, sharing it, opening it many times, clicking links, I'm going to go back into LinkedIn and I'm just going to, now that we're first degree connections, it'll show their phone number. And if they're a good fit for me, I'll call them right after they've opened a message many, many times. And, hey, this is Jack. I saw that you checked out my last email. What did you think? And every single time, oh, hey, Jack. Yeah, that's cool. And then we got him on the phone and sometimes it leads to a really productive call. I would say half the time, it's a great idea.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So there you go. Here's your 10 rapid fire questions.
Booyah, rapid fire out. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jack.
Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high vibe by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher, or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast
so they can send awesome emails
and make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.